Hey, this is Kevin Rail, and this is Train for Longevity podcast number 3. Today, we're going to be entitling this podcast Eating Disorders, but we are going to be talking about a little bit more than just eating disorders. But before I get to that, today's show is being brought to you from Precision Fitcations, Pine Pollen Superfoods, and RestoreYourFitness.com, where you can get my six-pack challenge and work out from the comfort of your living room or anytime you travel across this beautiful universe that we live in. So, all that out of the way, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our guest today, Miss Brittany Auerbach, who lives in Montreal, Canada. She is a naturopath and a health coach, and she also is the owner of the website called Montreal Healthy Girl. Am I correct?
Yes, MontrealHealthyGirl.com.
And she also has an awesome YouTube channel named the same exact thing. And I've watched some of her episodes, and let me just tell you this much. This girl knows everything you need to know about holistic medicine, healing the body from the inside out, and treating conditions that you may think are incurable or infixable. If you need anything like that after our show is over, please come to her because she is the source. So, how's that introduction? Did I miss anything?
Oh, it sounded great to me.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So, as some of you are well aware, I was in a movie called Fasting recently by Doug Orchard Films, as was Brittany. And we both have a common ground with our past histories with eating disorders. So the first thing I would like to address is just that. I would like you to go on a little bit more into detail about your past history with eating disorders and tell everyone a little bit more about kind of your journey and like where you started out and what happened, when did you hit the wall, and then how did you bounce back out?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the journey wasn't really a straight-edged one. It sort of was up and down. It went for many years. It started around my mid to late teens, probably around 16 years old. Prior to that, I had no issues at all with self-image or weight issues or anything along those lines. Sorry, let me just, give me one sec.
Technology.
Oh, I know. Technology is the worst. Hold on. Can we, is it possible to pause or it isn't, for 2 minutes? Because it's actually somebody else's phone in the office.
Oh, no. Let's just
okay, well, I'm so sorry. Yeah, okay. Cool.
We're going to keep this as I like organic, so whatever.
Okay.
We have interruptions. Big deal.
Okay, no problem. So anyways, yeah, I basically didn't have any issues with body image. It came really out of nowhere. So for me, I got sick in around my 16th birthday, and I actually was put on intravenous antibiotics for about 3 weeks in the hospital because I was quite sick with septicemia, and my eating disorder developed very quickly after that. I had not made that correlation until many years later, but I think it was, in my case, mostly disruption in gut flora and gut bacteria that led me to start to have all kinds of different food cravings and eat a completely different diet than I had been eating prior. So that's sort of how it developed for me. It seemed to come really one day to the next out of nowhere.
Okay, hold on for 1 second. I need to stop you. So are you saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, so you were suffering from septicemia first, and because of the condition of your stomach, that the bad health that was going on inside your stomach, it caused you to like change your whole relationship with food, so you were like afraid to eat some things, or you just started like saying, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat this, so it kind of like started going in that direction because of that? So would you say it was like by default or a side effect of the fact that you had septicemia?
Yes and no. I don't know if the septicemia itself caused the issue. Obviously, when you have a very serious infection like septicemia, which is basically a blood infection, there's a systemic issue, right? The immune system isn't good. Usually you have, for many years prior to that, gut imbalances. But the fact, I think in my case personally, I already had a lot of gut trouble and issues, and I had recently started putting on weight in that time as well. My hormones seemed to be changing, my food cravings. I was craving a lot of sugar. Just prior to that, I had taken antibiotics for different things as well. So I think when you take a lot of antibiotics, you kill your good bacteria, which allows yeast to overgrow in your body, and yeast has the tendency to give you a lot more sugar cravings. So for me, I started, eating a lot more sugar, binging out on sugar, drinking more alcohol. All of that led to septicemia, like sickness, and also simply just eating a lot more junk, putting on a lot more weight. And this was creating a lot of issues with my body image at that time because I was not used to being so much heavier than I had been prior, eating as much as I wanted. So all of a sudden, I didn't realize in that time that my microflora was different because of all the antibiotics and because of all of the health issues I had been dealing with intestinally. And because of this, I was storing weight a lot more easily. So changing my diet into a healthier, high fiber, plant-based, type of, non-processed meal plan would have
Right.
actually just resulted in healing my microbiome, I think, and saved me what became 10 years of misery. So in my case, it started with just a little bit anorexia style, cutting back my diets, cutting back my calories, exercising heavily, really quite heavily. And I wasn't seeing results as quickly as I'd hoped. I think it's
Hmm.
because I was recovering from an illness. My adrenals weren't good. I didn't have a lot of energy. So I was really just trying to do too many things. I was in high school, living out on my own, working 4 nights a week, and also trying to exercise for 2 hours, 3 hours every day. It was just really draining and not sustainable. So very quickly, my body got into that starvation mode where you're going crazy and you start eating everything. And that's when I just felt so horrible about all of it. And that's when the anorexia turned a little bit into bulimia, where I
Hmm.
was, exercise bulimia, also sheer vomiting bulimia. I mean, it was pretty awful. And I was sick for a long time. So that went up and down for a few years. But
Well,
yeah.
I think a lot of people have a misconception about anorexia and bulimia. And anorexia basically is you can't get thin enough. You have basically body dysmorphia. So you look in the mirror and you create fat on your body and say, I'm fat here, I'm fat here, I gotta get rid of this fat. And no matter how thin you are, you're actually not thin enough. I used to use the
Yeah.
word lean. I like to use the word lean. I'm not thin, I'm lean. And um, I would do the exact same thing. I would never resort to like laxatives or vomiting or anything like that when it came to like compensating or overcompensating for removing fat from my body. It was always through the medium of exercise for me. I would work out at the gym first thing in the morning for an hour and a half, and then I would go for like a 3 hour bike ride in the afternoon. And I'd fly home, jump on the scale about 10 to 15 times a day minimum.
Wow.
And it was the bulimia side of it is not necessarily purging, like making yourself vomit or taking laxatives, which I found disgusting. It was also the excessive amount of exercise that you do can also be in that categorization of bulimia as well. So it sounds like you
Yes.
kind of had the whole shebang going on, right?
Yeah, I definitely had both. I think my personality, depending on the type of person you are. So I'm a very indulgent person by nature. I just am. I'm, pleasure seeker in life. I like doing fun things. I like traveling. I like eating good food. So I think for me, I was looking for the quick fix, how I could
Yeah.
indulge and get rid of it really quickly. And I think that my life at that time, I didn't have the time to use over exercising as a purge method. I mean, I probably would have done that because I also found it really gruesome to vomit and do all these things. But at the same time, it seemed like the quickest fix. And after you've binge and your stomach hurts and you feel bloated and you're like, what did I do? In that moment, it seemed like the perfect solution. So that went on for a few years. And I lost a lot of weight and everybody around me started to wonder what was happening at the beginning. And then the weight started to pile back on because bulimia doesn't usually it never results in long-term, sustained, healthy, lean weight loss. There's a lot of muscle wasting and a lot of deficiency that happens. Something very interesting that I now know about eating disorders that I wish I had known years ago is that the main reason why we have such body dysmorphia in the first place, the main reason we crave the very foods that are bad for us, are because we have a damaged microbiome. Our good bacteria are the ones that break down our fruits and vegetables and extract the nutrients that we need, both the plant proteins, the fatty acids, but especially the minerals and the vitamins that we need to make neurotransmitters, happy hormones. So people that are deficient in these neurotransmitters that don't have good bacteria, even if they eat fruits and vegetables, it takes a while for the good bacteria to build up. If you have a lot of yeast and parasites, these organisms that make up 90% of what's happening in your body, because we're only really 10% human cells, what happens is they drive food cravings. They drive the need for processed foods, for overeating. They mess up your physiology and they make you feel more depressed and devitalized day to day, so that seeking comfort in food or seeking the endorphin rush from overexercise is more likely. So this is why it has a lot to do with what's happening in the gut. And I think that really that's what needs to be addressed to heal eating disorders. And then, of course, when your gut is damaged and you have too many bad bacteria, yeasts, parasites, not enough of the good stuff, it's not just that your happy hormones aren't regulated, but you're not really absorbing what you need from food, even if you eat well. So you end up very deficient. And something I noticed while I was going through my eating disorder recovery, which I did on my own, by the way, but I remember I was thin and not well, and I thought I looked terrible and I was fat. And then one day to the next, I opened my eyes, looked in the mirror, and was like, I look terrible. Why am I so thin? Why am I green? Oh my God, what did I do to myself? And I think what happened is literally a switch turned on where in that moment, I mean, it happened over a gradual period of time, but it seemed as though I just woke up and in that moment, my body was just repleted enough of minerals. It had enough minerals from all the juicing and other things I'd been doing to heal that it actually realized my brain started to work properly again. I started to see what really was. Dysmorphia is your brain not working properly. It's in a stress shock. And it's because you don't have enough, you have too much deficiency. It's almost as if you're in a psychosis for a period of time. You know, it could be compared a little to that, where your brain chemistry is just off and you need nutrients. That's what you need to fix it. So it's, you know, eating disorders can definitely be reversed. I believe they can always be reversed. Doesn't matter if it's binge eating, overeating, over-exercising, anorexia, bulimia, bulimorexia, the mix of all of them. I mean, I've kind of had a little bit of all of them. So I definitely can tell you that if I can do it, anybody can, you know, so. And
Well,
the gut microbiome is where to start.
Yeah, that's all fascinating information. And the particular eating disorder I had is called orthorexia, which I'm sure you're familiar with that one.
Yes.
And it's basically just obsessing too far when it comes to like the healthy end of it. The healthy spectrum is going over the edge. And you said a couple of things that resonated with me as well. I too was able to get over the hump by myself. I didn't have to go into a clinic or anything like that. Most people that I've spoken to that have eating disorders come to me and say, oh, you know, I heard about your story. It's really great that you came out and talked about it and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I had to go through the same thing and I went to a clinic and whatever. And I listened to their stories and they're like, maybe 30% as bad as mine. And they all went to clinics and stuff. And I'm sitting there looking around like, holy cow, how do I even make it out alive without going to a clinic or something? And I think if you're just like, if you're super dedicated to lose weight and run a marathon in a year, you're going to train as hard as you possibly can to get there if your passion is high enough. And if you want to make changes, you're going to do whatever it takes to make those changes. So in my mind, that's how it was with me. I was, you know, dedicated to turning things around and reversing it. So I did it. It's that simple. I can kind of go in any other avenue when it comes to fitness or health, if you look at it that way. But something else you mentioned, I'm sorry, Jessica. There's one more thing I want to mention. This is what I want to go into next. So we kind of laid the foundation perfectly for something I want to talk about anyway, which is how do people out there listening that aren't like us, that aren't 100% educated on health and fitness and nutrition, that want to make changes, that want to do so much as like lose 5 pounds or something and start eating healthy and get back to good bacteria? Because you said a lot of good points there. And I've been telling people a lot this lately. Everything starts in your gut. Every single thing. It's either the front side, which is your core, or the back side, which is your intestines. Everything starts there. If you want better brain function, it starts in your stomach. If you want better joint function, it starts in your gut. If you want to get rid of rashes or diseases on your skin or anything like that, or cataracts or whatever it is, or better vision, it all starts in your stomach. Whatever you eat,
yes,
that's where it starts. So how do we get the most beneficial effect from food? We do that by improving our gut health. So what are some of the steps that people can take at home to improve their gut health? I have some ideas, but I want to hear what your take is.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple of things that I think are helpful. Some of them people have heard quite a bit about, like fermented foods and all that, and I'll talk a little about that. But there's some really powerful things that can change your microbiome, and they have done. Now there's a lot more research into different strains of bacteria and the effect that they have in our bodies, and they've done tests with rats and even different control groups of people where they implant bacteria from one rat into a brother rat in the same environment, and that rat will automatically lose or gain weight depending on which bacteria was implanted on the very same diet. So different types of bacteria have the ability to resist fat and carbohydrate metabolism and absorption. So a person with a good microbiome can eat a 500 calorie cake and only really extract 250 calories of the sugar and the fat and all of that. Whereas a person that has a lot of yeast and parasites and the very low vibration organisms that love that kind of food and can extract all of it from the process, that person is going to really glean all the calories from it and get all the inflammation and everything else that comes along with that. So the most powerful thing you can do before you even do probiotics, fermented foods, and all the things we're going to chat about is number one, changing your diet. That doesn't mean you have to overnight go from eating McDonald's 3 times a day to only lettuce. That's not sustainable or fun for anybody. Yeah. But adding in more raw fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables with cellulose fiber. So if you have Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
sprouts and all that good stuff and alkalizing minerals. But as soon as we eat more fiber, the good bacteria that we do have in our gut will start thriving, and we will automatically start starving the yeast and the parasites that don't want to eat sprouts and green vegetables and salads and cucumbers and all that fun stuff. So one of the best things that I say for people that's can make a massive difference in both natural healthy weight loss and also just changing and altering the gut microbiome for the better is to start eating raw vegetables before every meal. So you can have maybe a fruit or two before breakfast, but eating, let's say, a full cucumber, like slicing a full English cucumber with a little sea salt or lemon, whatever you want, and just munching on that while you make your dinner. Having a, raw celery or raw baby carrots, whatever it is, and chewing that fiber and eating that while you prepare your meal. Not only will this hydrate you, add the cellulose fiber for your good bacteria, stimulate your digestion, and give you alkalizing minerals and tone down the hunger drive, but you're literally transforming your body chemistry, and you're making it so that your yeast and parasites that are waiting there to feast on your pizza, they get kind of turned off and they go away. They're like, what is this cucumber? We don't want this. So your good bacteria are like, finally, something for us. So that's a good way to maximize what you already have in terms of your microflora, like to get the weakness of your current bacteria higher. Another thing that people don't realize, and I didn't realize until I did a little bit more research about it, considering I don't have the organ, it was of interest to me, but the appendix, which is a very overlooked organ in the body. It's basically right there at the junction point of your small and large intestine near the ileocecal valve. And this little beautiful organ, which is considered the gold mine of the body and now is starting to be discovered, that's the housing for good bacteria. Your appendix can actually make good bacteria, and it has a little feeding ability through the entire colon to basically reimplant good bacteria there. And so every time you get a gut infection or every time you catch something bad like a parasite, what happens is your liver and gallbladder will produce bile, your gallbladder will dump out bile, which will help, give you diarrhea, clean everything out, but also sanitize the gut. And right after the sanitization process, the natural healing from the infection, your appendix then reseeds your entire gut with beneficial flora. It's a protective membrane in the body where bacteria can survive a very long time, and they can reproduce at very quick rates and keep your body healthy and strong. So I had an appendectomy from having appendicitis when I was young, when I was 12. And I've had kind of chronic health issues in terms of gut problems ever since. And so if you don't have an appendix, it's important to do regular fermented food and probiotics. And I mean, every day for the rest of your life kind of thing to keep your microbiome strong. But basically, if you do have an appendix, that itself with a healthy diet is often enough over the course of many months to help people completely alter their microbiome. So then, of course, there's probiotics, fermented foods, growing your own foods, being out in nature more. So, planting your own fruits and vegetables, playing out in soil, walking barefoot, touching and kissing people, contact with other people, especially healthy people.
Human connection. It's
human
all about
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So those are all good things.
You just said some mind-blowing things, and I kind of do all that stuff. I already eat cucumbers when I'm cooking or making something, and sometimes I'll eat celery, and sometimes I'll dip them in hummus, and maybe that interrupts things a little bit. But I like organic hummus. Sorry.
Oh, hummus is amazing. I like the way you say it, hummus.
Well, I have a friend. So it's a long story, but years ago I worked at a health food store, and I had a friend whose grandmother was 100% Lebanese. She came into town to visit once, came to the store, and says, "Where's the hummus located?" And I was like, "The what?" She goes, "Where's the hummus?" And she had her accent and stuff. I go, "Oh, hummus." She goes, "You Americans don't know how to pronounce it. Hummus, hummus." I've called it hummus ever since in respect for them.
You know what? I'm going to start calling it hummus as well. Forgive me if I ever talk about it badly in a video by saying hummus, but I'll do my best.
Whatever. We're Americans. What are you going to say? You're Canadian, so you have a different take on the whole thing. Anyway, let's just rewind a minute. Microbiomes. So people, eat cucumbers before your meals when you're preparing your dishes. Don't snack on tortilla chips and like Doritos and pretzels and all that crap, because that's just going to feed the bacteria the bad stuff in your system.
Yes.
So one simple thing you can do is eat a cucumber before every meal. That's easy to remember. And you know what? Cucumbers make me feel amazing. And you know what else makes me feel amazing? Baby spinach and romaine lettuce. And I want you to name the component of romaine lettuce that makes you happy. You know what it is? You must know. No.
It's not
Oh, sure.
tryptophan?
No, you might be right. That might be there too. But there's one other thing that trumps it all.
And share it with us.
Lacticarium.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
You know about lacticarium?
I do, but I would like you to share a little bit more about it. Since you're so enthusiastic about it, lacticarium.
Well,
But
sometimes
it's true. Tryptophan is a very feel-good, not tryptophan. Romaine lettuce is a very feel-good food. It truly is.
it is. Let's break romaine lettuce down just one more notch. I'll give my insight on it, and then you can come back and you can do. We'll do a double tap here, just like they did in that Woody Harrelson movie. What was it called? Zombieland.
Yeah.
I'll give my I'll give my advice. You give yours. So romaine lettuce. When you go down to the bottom of a romaine heart, there's this little white milky substance at the bottom by the core. That stuff is called lacticarium, which has also been known to be equivalent to opium, but in a natural form. So it helps improve your mood, elevate your energy levels, and give you better brain function, all rolled into one. So when you have a romaine heart, make sure to eat it all the way down to the nub. I eat it like all the way down until it's so bitter I can't stand it anymore. And then I throw it in my garbage disposal, and down the road I go. And it's not out of the question to spot me walking out of Costco with a 6-pack of organic romaine hearts, chomping on one of them as I'm walking across the parking lot like someone would be eating an apple. So that's my take on romaine lettuce. What's your take?
That's amazing, and you're absolutely right. And a lot of people, they throw away the nub. Also, the nub of celery is extremely beneficial. Also, so that's another thing. People can eat the entire bottom of celery, but so there's a lot of vegetables that we actually throw away. I love romaine lettuce for that reason, but lacticarium, apart from itself having the compounds it does that helps brain function, the bitterness, the actual bitter taste of it, stimulates the gag reflex naturally, the vagus nerve, and it also stimulates your liver, your stomach to make stomach acid, which is really helpful for digestion, but also it stimulates the liver to make bile. So that helps to sanitize the gut. It helps to digest food, metabolize fats, help your body burn fat. Also, it's one of the lettuces that is richest in chlorophyll naturally of the paler lettuces, maybe not compared to kale, but still. And it's very, very nutritious that way. It has tons of good minerals that we need, magnesium and whatever else. So there's a lot of vegetables that are overlooked as being, not superfoods, or they're just, oh, it's just carrots, or it's just this. But there is so much special individualized chemistry to each one of these vegetables. Even cucumbers. Cucumbers is super rich in silica. It's a mineral that we never hear about, nobody ever talks about, but it's basically a massive building block for the body and critical for us to absorb and utilize any other nutrient. So, and they're cucumbers, like people overlook them all the time and think that they're not worth much. So yeah, romaine lettuce is fantastic. I definitely recommend that. Any vegetable is good. And my favorite thing about eating vegetables before your meal is that a lot of people will say, oh, I don't want to eat just, celery for my dinner. You can eat whatever you want after. If you eat an entire English cucumber, even if you're having pizza, I mean, we should be eating whole foods, plant-based. I really am a proponent of that. If you see my channel, you know that that's totally what I'm about. But at the end of the day, if you feel really restricted, especially when you're first looking to change your diet, you first want to see results. If you eat a massive cucumber or even 2 cucumbers before your dinner, even if you had pizza, I'm telling you, you won't be able to eat more than a piece or 2. And that's a moderate amount of pizza that isn't going to destroy everything you're working on. Plus, it's not necessarily the volume of food or the calories that we eat. It's our body's ability to break down that food and whether that food is beneficial. If it has a lot of nutrients and the right kind of minerals and everything else and plant compounds that your body needs to function, that'll raise your metabolism. It'll raise your core functioning in the body. It'll clean out the organs, make them very efficient, like the liver at eliminating excess fat. It allows your body to run amazingly well. And if you eat too much healthy food, your body's just going to have more energy to do stuff with. But if you eat a lot of toxic foods, then you're going to get slowed down and bogged down. And it's like putting milk in a diesel tank and asking it to run properly. It just gunks everything up and your body's just going to feel heavy and sluggish. So definitely eating vegetables. That way you don't feel that you're eating a boring dinner. You can still eat what you like, just add vegetables, add that love to your diet, give your body what it needs, and then also allow yourself the indulgences. It's about balance.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're describing Mother Nature right there. Everything is about balance. If you go one direction too far, something else is going to be lacking. And if you go too far to the left, something else is going to be lacking. If you spend 6 hours a day doing exercise like I used to do, I had suffered with relationships, with jobs, with business, everything else in between, all suffered. Yeah, I might have been ripped to shreds, but I turned into like skin, bones, and muscle and nothing else. And my life revolved around it. So if you don't have balance, you're going to be out of whack. And if you do nothing but eat pizza and donuts and potato chips all day long, you're going to be in bad shape, literally, physically, and you know, you're going to have a cluster of fat on your body too. But if you try to balance it out, even by adding a cucumber a day in your diet, people say apple a day keeps the doctor away. I believe a cucumber a day will keep the doctor away faster than an apple, personally. Not that either one is bad choice, but it sounds to me like the benefits of a cucumber are off the charts. And that's another thing that I want to talk about right now is a cucumber has skin on it, and so does a sweet potato. So I want your take: skins or no skins? Let's go.
Always skins. Always.
Really?
You want to get organic as much
Uh-huh.
as possible. But I believe, first of all, most of the nutrition in any vegetable is in the skin.
That's what I thought.
A lot of the nutrition and the good bacteria is on the skin. You want to do organic. So the main reason you want to do organic if you're going to consume the skins, and you should consume the skins, is because of all, not just the pesticides that it's sitting in, but also there's a lot of antibiotics being sprayed on our crops, on apples, on all kinds of stuff. And this is just to kill off all the bad stuff. But the antibiotic is also sitting. So it's not just the wax they put on and all of the pesticides and herbicides that are hormone disruptors that are definitely not going to help with your weight loss goals and start clogging up all of your glands and your organs, impairing your metabolism, the way your body functions, your liver health, all of that. But I mean, you don't want to eat the wax, you don't want to eat those chemicals, and you certainly don't want more antibiotics coming in and destroying the good bacteria you have, which are going to make it even harder for you to meet your fitness requirements. So definitely the skins. Most of the nutrition in a fruit or a vegetable is in the skin, most of the antioxidants. And the reason for this is that the plant protects itself from the outside environment. So it has to develop the strongest polyphenols, the strongest plant compounds and chemicals to defend itself. The most bitter compounds are usually in the skin, the most natural oils and plants, phytochemicals and all of these things. So even in avocado, you know how there's a tiny film right along the inside shell of the avocado when you cut it open that's dark green? Yep. That has so much more chlorophyll, way more magnesium. The benefit is there. So people that just eat the inside and they leave most of the avocado kind of, against the skin, that dark part, that's where most of the benefit is from the avocado. So you definitely want to eat your fruit to completion. And I think of it this way: nature didn't mess up. It didn't make an apple with a beautiful, bright skin to attract us. Think about if it was just white inside, we wouldn't be as attracted to it, right? We're attracted to vibrant colors. We're attracted to things that smell and taste good. And the skin protects the fruit from rotting and protects the vegetable from rotting. But it also helps us a little bit as well in our quest for getting good bacteria. There's typically tougher cellulose fiber on the outside of fruits and vegetables. So that nourishes your good bacteria even better than the fruit or vegetable itself. And there's just so much benefit to it, I think, really, honestly. And it's a good scrub for the intestines. And also, the skin is tough. It's harder to chew. So it makes it a little harder for us to extract all the calories from the food we're eating. So it's actually, having the skin adds more fiber, which buffers the carb content of food. It slows down blood sugar, rise in your body. There's just so many ways that it blocks fat storage and helps your body to maintain health while still giving you the nutrients you need and all of that. So
that's very good information to have. Now, what would you suggest about citrus fruits such as oranges and lemons and grapefruits and stuff? I actually used to eat the skins years ago when I was in like my late teens, just as a joke at a party once, and I started eating them, and I kept eating them for like several years after that, and then I kind of went away from it. But is there any truth to the fact that the skins, even on citrus fruit, are really beneficial to eat as they are? And nothing happened. It was just bitter. That was all. Yeah. They are good.
Yeah, they are very bitter, but they are so beneficial for you. I definitely am a huge believer that the skins of all fruit are excellent. I don't know if we need to be eating 10, 20, 30 lemons a day and the skins of them. But I personally, when I juice lemons or when I shred lemons into, let's say I'm making lemon squares, organic, vegan lemon squares, of course, or anything else, salads, anything that I want tang, I'll typically take the entire lemon and grate it even with the skin. And I use lemon peels and beverages and all kinds of things like that. So it's very important. There's a lot of nutrition in the citrus fruit itself, but the thin white membrane that separates the actual outer peel from the fruit itself, that has the highest amount of bioflavonoids. So for us to actually absorb vitamin C, we need not just the ascorbic and citric acid, which are components of vitamin C, the acids found in the orange, but also we need bioflavonoids. It makes it bioavailable to us. It makes our body, it makes that perfect synergy so your body can use it as a molecule, recognize it as a molecule that it can use in its own chemistry. So your body basically uptakes it. So it's very important to eat that white membrane, and that's usually not super bitter. In terms of the skin and peel itself, I would definitely incorporate some of it into your diet. It's very therapeutic. I recently saw a post on Facebook. I didn't really look, it was just a quick post, so I'm not going to go into the science behind it. I don't know what the studies are in regard to this claim, but it was basically saying that limonene, the compound in lemon skin, actually is considered to be, I think, 5 or 10,000 times better at killing cancer cells than chemotherapy. Now, like I said, there's no science. That was just a very quick thing that I saw. But I definitely believe that limonene, which is the natural oil found in lemon skin, is very, very good at killing bad bacteria, at boosting the immune system, at sanitizing the gut. The bitterness of it, like I said, similarly to what we were talking about earlier with the romaine, is that it stimulates stomach acid secretion, which helps you digest your food and actually absorb minerals and protein in the food that you're eating. And there are a lot of people, even meat eaters, that are protein deficient, not because they aren't eating husks of, meat and all, and beef and all these things, but they just don't have the stomach acid that can fully break down those complex chains of amino acids into the individual molecules you need to actually build new muscle, build new brain cells, build new everything. So it's really important to address stomach acid, and lemon is probably one of the single best things you can do, including the lemon peel, to boost stomach acid in the body. And I love lemons. I mean, lemon cleanses, lemon detoxes, moves the lymph. I mean, lemons are incredible and they're so alkalizing. All citrus is going to be really wonderful, but I really find the lemon like the king of the citrus kingdom.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm about to start dabbling with, I make kombucha homemade at home here. And I'm going to start getting into more of the lemons and the grapefruit and the oranges and stuff. Because I don't see those on the market of kombucha very much. I see lemon in a lot of different blends and like ginger added to them and stuff like that. But I don't see orange very often. I don't see grapefruit very often. I want to start digging into those type directions with my kombucha making.
Oh, you know what you can do too, which is really fun, and I love this. My sister and I were putting together a recipe book for junk juices. They're not really junk, but it's basically all of our favorite junky beverages, but made healthy, that really taste like their junky counterparts. And so that'll be coming out soon. You guys can stay tuned for that. But something that we found very interesting was that you can make really powerful flavors by adding essential oils to some of the juices you're making. And so we did that in a couple of them, but even just me day to day, I will literally add a drop or two of lemon, or I love orange essential oil, even grapefruit, but orange is very, very aromatic. And you can put a drop of that into, you can make a cranberry tea and put a drop of orange essential oil, and it's delicious. It tastes like a Jolly Rancher.
Oh, wow.
It's really, really very interesting. So using essential oils is really a creative way. And lavender, I went to a lavender farm where they were making fresh lemonade. I mean, I'm sure they weren't using the best sweetener, but they were making fresh lemonade, and they put drops of lavender essential oil in there. And it made it very, very flavorful. So you can use peppermint. You can put a drop of peppermint into a smoothie, and all of a sudden now your smoothie tastes like a peppermint patty, And there's a lot of raw food vegans that have videos about these kinds of things online where they use essential oils to also boost nutrition and health. So essential oils are so cleansing for the body, so good for getting rid of unwanted yeast and parasites. Their natural volatile oils are very, very powerful because it's very concentrated. So one drop of, let's say, eucalyptus essential oil is worth about, I think, 5 or 10 pounds of eucalyptus itself. So it's very, very strong, wow, very therapeutic. So you want to go small. But yeah, if you want to get more citrus in your diet, and you could try getting a lemon or an orange essential oil and adding a drop or two of that to some of the drinks you have or some of your salad dressings and things. It can be really delicious, or your desserts as well.
So I never knew that essential oils were actually edible. So you're saying they are?
Well, not all of them are. There are some that people just use in diffusers. You want to make sure you always get organic essential oils and pure. Mm-hmm. Usually they'll say food grade, but I mean, I've ingested a lot of essential oils in my life, large amounts. So I don't recommend this for people being excessive, but There are a lot of, you have to do a little bit of reading about which ones are edible and which ones aren't. The fruit and food-based ones always will be. You got to be a little more careful with herbs and, you know, those kinds of things. Medicinal plants like eucalyptus isn't usually typically edible, but oregano, basil oil, thyme oil, orange, grapefruit oil, all of those things will be great. But if you go organic and you go food grade, you'll usually find for very inexpensive. You can find on Amazon, locally, even Walmart sells organic essential oils these days. I saw a whole line of organic oils for $6 each or something at Walmart.
Wow.
So, and they tell you put a drop in your juice, in your water. Usually on the back, they'll give you directions on how to use it internally. If it says for external use only in big writing, then of course, you know, it could just be, yeah, it could be, if they're warning you, you know, then about their own product. Usually it's the extraction process that makes the difference. It's not the lemon oil itself, it's the way they chemically extract it. It could become volatile, you know, in a way that's not necessarily good for the body, the way it's packaged, what it comes in contact with. They definitely don't use as pure standards when they're doing external oils as they would with a very pure, organic, natural food grade oil.
Okay, cool. Now, I have another question for you. What is your take on various fruits, and probably not fruits, more so vegetables, being cooked versus not cooked? I'm not talking about raw foodist or any of that stuff. I'm talking strictly about nutrient composition being absorbed in the body. Do you believe that you should always eat broccoli raw, or you should always eat carrots steamed, or you shouldn't eat celery raw, or all these things? What is your take on all that? And what key vegetables do you feel should be cooked or steamed as opposed to eating raw, and vice versa? Because I've been doing research on this lately, and I'm kind of fascinated with it, and I want to get your take on it. And in the event that it is best to eat broccoli raw, are you really missing out on the indoles and stuff if it's cooked? And do you recommend putting mustard seed extract on them or adding some raw broccoli back into the batch after it is done? I want to know your take on all that.
Sure. Okay. So I love that question. That's a really great question, by the way. And I think a lot of people are really confused about that. And we often tend to overcomplicate or think about, you know, there's so much information out there. Tomatoes need to be cooked for you to get all the lycopene, and broccoli has goitrogenic compounds that are bad for your thyroid.
I'm trying to make it more grade 2 for everybody. So that's the whole thing right there. So I want to know your take.
So my take is that, number one, so I'll give an example here. The most important way to eat your vegetables is, number one, the way that you're actually going to eat them. So the way that you find them delicious and edible. Also, the way you digest them. In other words, there is no doubt. I don't think that nature made a mistake. I think that raw food, hands down, from a nature standpoint, in an ideal circumstance with a healthy gut, is always the better option, even for broccoli, even for other things. I don't believe that the heating or processing of food makes it better for us. It decreases, even if it makes some nutrients more bioavailable, it actually decreases the overall vibration and life force of that food. It takes away the enzymes of that food, which assists your body in digestion. It basically takes away the actual energy in the food. You want to transmit the vibrational energy to your body to feel optimal. Now, that said, we do not live in a perfect world with ideal guts, and most people cannot digest raw food. So from a just pure science standpoint, raw is seriously actually better, I think, in my opinion. But in terms of diet, do I eat a fully raw diet? No. Did I thrive eating a fully raw diet? Not always. And why do I choose not to do this? Why do I not often recommend that for people? It really depends on the circumstance. It doesn't matter if broccoli is 10 times more nutritious when it's cooked, or when it's raw, sorry. If you cannot digest it, even if it has, let's say, 100% of the nutrients, but you can only extract 5% of those nutrients because your gut is just not strong enough. You don't have that good bacteria. You can't break down that cellulose fiber. It's literally just scratching and irritating your gut. Maybe you don't chew enough. Maybe you're missing teeth. Maybe you have jaw problems. There's just so many things to consider, right? But take, for example, that same person now who cooks the broccoli and kills maybe 50% of the overall nutrients in it. So it's 50% less wonderful as a food. But because the cellulose is soft, because it's cooked and devitalized, the bacteria and things that they happen to have living in their body at that time, and their level of stomach acid and their level of ability to break down that food is increased based on the food just being softer and easier it's already been broken down by the cooking process. So all of a sudden, even though there was only 50% of the nutrients, they got, maybe 40% of that. They absorbed 40%. So instead of absorbing 5% out of 100, an ideal food, they now absorb 40 out of 50, which is still a higher percentage and more nutrition than they would have gotten from the raw. So I think it's about listening to your body. And I think that some people, they can eat raw asparagus and it doesn't bother their stomach, and other people, they need to cook it. I think at a good starting point, if I were to just name specific foods for people and keep it simple, any food that is really tough or has a cellulose fiber that's dense, like broccoli, celery can be eaten raw, but even like celery, like
Or
carrots,
Brussels sprouts or cabbage.
Brussels sprouts, thank you, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cruciferous vegetables, these very dense veggies that you're chewing, and it feels like it never breaks down. You could steam those or cook them lightly if you want to have cooked food in your diet. That releases the sugars a little. It softens that cellulose fiber. It makes it a little more gentle on your gut, particularly if you're having a lot of gut issues. And those foods are nice in soups, and they're delicious, and it adds you that variety that you need when you want something warm and nourishing to eat. And the foods that you should eat raw are the ones that are a little bit more tender. So lettuces, leafy greens, spinach, cucumbers, especially the inside of cucumber. Those kind of foods are a lot easier on the gut and colon. They're a lot softer, and the fiber in them is a lot more gentle. So that could be a little less irritating. But I would say that the more you can eat raw foods in your diet, the more vitality you will have overall, the quicker the detox, the quicker the healing. And so there's a specific type of food that they're really big on, actually, at the center that I'm temporarily volunteering at in Florida. But they basically are a huge proponent at the Hippocrates Center. They're huge proponents of sprouts. So if you want,
I know all about the sprout thing. Doug was telling me about it.
It's
He's like, oh yeah, there's a big salad bar of sprouts. He goes, I ate sprouts for X amount of days in a row. He goes, I never want to see a sprout again. Hilarious.
Oh, but I mean, sprouts are something that people can incorporate that will feed good bacteria, but that they're sprouted, so they're pre-digested. They're easier to break down. They're baby vegetables. So the toughness of the adult vegetable isn't there. If you look at, let's say, cabbage sprouts or mustard green sprouts or kale sprouts, they are so tender. They're more tender than butter lettuce. It's delicious, so not all sprouts are extremely tender, but all those basil and cilantro sprouts, you are getting so much more nutrition from a sprout than you're ever going to get from an adult vegetable. Higher life force, easier digestibility, more nutrients, and they're virtually calorie-free or very low calorie. So you're getting an insane amount of nutrition for very little energy expenditure from the body. So I would say that if you can do lots of raw sprouts in your diet, organic ideally, and they're very inexpensive to make, then you can steam some adult vegetables that are a little more tough, and then you get the best of both worlds.
I personally love sprouts, and I was on a kick years ago with them where like every single meal in the world I ate, I had to have sprouts. I'd get like 3 containers a day, alfalfa sprouts, broccoli sprouts, whatever I could find. Sunflower seed sprouts, they were amazing.
They are amazing.
They are super tender, and they're just by themselves, they're awesome. That would be something else that would be good to munch on while you're preparing a dinner or a meal and you're trying to cut your appetite down, because a lot of people do that as well. Like, oh, I'm cooking dinner, but I'm starving. I need something right now. And then they'll reach for the chips. They'll reach for the unhealthy stuff, and they're going to preload their body with all this crap. So, I mean, you can just take a big handful of alfalfa sprouts and pluck them out of the container like you're ripping somebody's hair out of their head, and just munch on those. And they're real chewy, and they're delicious. I think they are. And they're very flavorful, and they're high in hydration as well. And, I mean, I don't think you can really find anything that's more nutrient-packed than sprouts, to be honest with you.
Oh, and I love that idea of eating them before a meal also, because one of the reasons why people overeat or have trouble losing weight or have trouble overcoming their eating disorders is because they feel that they're never going to obtain a healthy weight by eating by eating normally. So they're always restricting and then binging and restricting and then binging, and it's just a cycle of trauma on the body. But protein and fats are very satiating nutrients. So proteins particularly, they can really shut off that hunger drive. So sprouts are extremely, extremely rich in protein, and that protein is pre-digested. Instead of being complex chains of amino acids that are so hard to break down the way that meat and muscle tissue from animals is, they're actually a bunch of amino acids, and often contain, a lot of them, complete proteins, but already broken down in a way that your body can use right away. So making a juice, you know, people can also juice sprouts. They can do cucumber, celery, sprouts with carrots, whatever veggies they want. But the addition of sprouts basically releases that protein into your body, keeps your blood sugar stable. So for people that do want to do a cleanse, want to do juicing, whatever, having sprouts in the juice will help to temper that hunger drive. And eating sprouts before a meal will give your body those amino acids, that protein. So your body will be like, okay, we have minerals, we have water, we have fiber, we have tons of nutrients and minerals and phyto compounds and all of this stuff, and protein. I mean, we don't really need to eat much more. It will really help to temper down the desire for other more toxic foods, maybe more so even than cucumber would be, right? But the mix of both of them, I mean, sprouts are definitely something you want to add to your diet. And people don't realize that there's more bioavailable protein in sprouts and about a handful of sprouts than there even is in a huge steak, because most people don't have the stomach acid to even break down that steak. So even if this, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's where I was going. For people that eat a lot of meat out there, burgers and steak and chicken and turkey, even if you're getting a lean source, no hormones, antibiotics, the whole 9 yards, but if you're eating a high amount of this stuff, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me that your body has the ability to break it down. Because what makes sense to me is like the thicker the meal is or the food that you're eating, the more work the body has to do to process it or break it down. So if you take a steak and compare it to a bowl full of sprouts, you may get like 2 grams of protein from the sprouts, where you're getting 50 grams of protein from this huge steak. However, how much of that is being broken down or are you digesting is the key question.
Yes, absolutely. And people are always looking at people look at total protein, and that's a really big mistake, because humans are actually designed to thrive we reassimilate amino acids. We don't take a complete protein. Like, this whole theory of complete protein being necessary is flawed. You don't need a complete protein. Your body won't take muscle from something else and then build your muscle from exactly that. It needs to break that down, restructure the amino acids to be adequate to build human tissue, because cows and humans are totally different, and our muscle is very different, and our diets genetically are different, and everything else. So definitely for people that eat a lot of meat, I would say, number one, by eating a cucumber before your meals, you'll eat significantly less steak. So that already will be helpful. Anybody that eats a lot of meat should be eating organic, grass-fed, all of that, sustainably grown. And most of all, teaming that meat up with lots and lots of very stomach acid fortifying foods like ginger and garlic and spices, herbs, those kinds of things. Apple cider vinegar to tenderize the meat will help a lot with absorption. Using lemon juice, using astringent lemon and apple cider vinegar and things on salads. And most of all, eating a ton of green vegetables and green produce along with that meat, because meat is very, very acid forming. It's very penetrative in the cells, and it can create a lot of congestion in the lymphatic system and a lot of strain on the body. Now, I'm a vegan, okay? And I'm a non-judgmental vegan. I believe people should eat whatever diet works for them. And I believe in sustainable, natural, environmental growth of food and all of that, whether it's animal products or plant products. But if you are a person who's eating a lot of animal products, you definitely want to make sure that you're maintaining your health by doing a lot of vegetables. And they have actually done studies where they show that people that eat a lot of animal products, but that also combine it with lots of alkaline nutrients from plant foods, they buffer a lot of that acid, and they actually help to speed up the digestion a little bit because of the plant natural acids and phytochemicals, and they start to balance their chemistry. So the people that are thriving on paleo or that are thriving on more animal dense diets are typically doing so because they're also eating a lot of plant foods. People think, I'm like Atkins, that was not a healthy diet because bacon, eggs, and steak for breakfast without a vegetable is not healthy, but if that person had, let's say, grass-fed steak with an organic, soft boiled
salad,
egg and an avocado and tons of salad and, steamed spinach and all these other things, maybe we might not have been able to judge so harshly the animal products if they were combining it with plant foods. And so cutting down on animal product consumption is definitely helpful. And the best way to do that is just, instead of stopping, telling your mind you can't have it, just add in 2, 3, 4 cups of vegetables with every single meal, especially lunch and dinner. All of a sudden, you have a lot less room for steak in your belly, and your body gets a lot more of what it actually needs.
Yeah, and I feel I consider myself a flexitarian, and I think I've struck a good balance with everything you just said, because if I do eat meat, I don't really eat red meat that much. I made steak about a month and a half ago. It was organic elk, I think, that a friend of mine had given me over the summers in my freezer. and I got tired of looking at it in there. So I'm like, I'm finally gonna cook this up. I don't even really know how to cook meat. It was like my house reeked of like burnt meat for like a week, and there was like smoke running everywhere, and I had salt and pepper and stuff on it. And I mean, it tasted okay. It was a little bit tough, and I was like, eh. I mean, I eat steak maybe once a year.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it is
whatever.
hard to cook in a house. It's hard to cook in a house. I remember my family grew up eating a lot of meat. I mean, rib steaks bigger than my head every night of the week. And I mean, it was great in those days. I thought it was wonderful. It's like, look at me having steak every night. But I think that definitely contributed to some of my gut issues, some of that appendicitis and congestion and all that. So, but it's okay. I mean, right now, plant-based and veganism is a relatively new movement from documentable cases. I mean, there are very few people that are centenarians that are eating fully vegan now that we know that we can just study and document, right? So it's hard to say whether or not the addition of animal products on small levels may or may not have benefited society. There's so many different schools of thought on it. I personally am a vegan, but I do, if I'm out somewhere and it's at a wedding or there's an event I am also flexible. Like every now and then I will eat just whatever, even if it's not healthy, because it is what it is. And for me now, having found the balance in my health and all of this, I find that it's just funner and easier in life to live in the moment and not worry about it than it is to come up with all this stress. And I mean, I'm not going to go to the car and eat an avocado in secret. Like I'm just going to eat the meal with other people and I used to do those things.
Oh, I used to do it too. Yep.
And people would walk by and you're in the car stuffing your face and it's just the weirdest thing ever, so but
really.
Yeah, so it's about knowing that 90% of the time you do what you need to do, and that other 10% you just do what you want. And if that means that you make steak once a week, so be it. If it means you have to do it every day to get all those vegetables in, so be it. We're all at a different place, and it's just about accepting where you are in that moment. And also some people are just happier that way and they just don't want to be vegans. Like that's totally fine too.
Yeah, I pretty much have respect for all the diet plans, if you want to call them that, out there in the world. Whatever works for you works for you. It's that simple. I mean, I've done a couple rounds of vegan just for like just for experimentation purposes and stuff. So I had some data to go on for how I felt and everything. And I gotta be honest, I was like last summer I did a 10-day run of veganism, and I was in a couple races here in town, foot races, like 5Ks and stuff like that. And I did a couple relay races for benefits here for charity. And I had absolutely unlimited energy. I mean, I was just on fire. Now, granted, I work out fasted too. And I think I was like 12 hours fasted before these races happened. And that's how I normally do it. But what I felt different was my aerobic capacity and anaerobic capacity felt even higher when I was following the vegan diet than normal when I'm not following a vegan diet. And again, I don't eat a ton of meat. I eat more like eggs and cottage cheese and stuff like that. Yeah. During the course of the week, and I'll have like organic turkey slices and stuff, and I make like wraps out of lettuce and stuff with them. But I don't eat like big hunks of meat and big hunks of chicken and steak all the nights of the week. But I did remember that when I was going vegan and I was doing my time restricted feeding windows and I was going into these workouts fasted for a minimum of 10 to 12 hours, I felt like my aerobic capacity stayed high as can be throughout the whole race, more so than when I was eating meat products. So I don't know what the connection was there, but I definitely felt the difference.
What's amazing about you is that you are very in tune with your body. So I think the years of the orthorexia, the stress, then finding the balance, all of it, I think, contributed to, oh my God, my phone's going crazy over there, or this other person's phone. But yeah, so I think that your body, you're very in tune with it. So when you have less energy from a food that you're eating or more energy from a food that you're eating, which is really nice to be in touch with yourself that way. And so, some people, they don't notice as much. They'll feel lethargic all the time, or they don't use their body as much to be able to identify that. But I definitely think that the reason that happened is that there's a cost to everything. So you exercise, you break down the muscle, but it rebuilds stronger. Every food you eat has a cost, an energetic cost. The cost of breaking down that food, reassimilating it, using it, detoxing it, purging it, all of that stuff. I mean, naturally, your body getting rid of it. So when you eat a steak or you eat a heavy food or cottage cheese or eggs, these foods are very, very dense. They take a long time to digest, and they use a larger amount of your vital energy while also being usually cooked, usually dead on some level if it's animal products. So you're basically looking at a devitalized, low vibration food to begin with. It's very difficult to break down. So though it might have a little bit more iron, let's say, than something else, there's a bigger cost to your body and less of a benefit. So the thing with raw food, and especially if you're eating a lot of vegan, but even just, vegan and raw food together, these foods digest much more quickly. Take a banana. A banana's the longest, slowest digesting fruit. 45 minutes, it's out of your stomach. That's
Wow.
crazy. 45 minutes. It takes like 8+ hours for a steak sometimes,
Holy,
depending on your level of stomach acid. And
wow.
and watermelon, it's 20 minutes. 20 minutes, it's already in the small intestine being absorbed. So that's what's amazing. And vegetables, usually within an hour, veggies will be mostly out of your stomach, or sometimes 2 hours if you have a very fatty vegan sauce. Like I tend to douse my stuff in tahini and almond butter and all these things. Like I love those fatty sauces, but
Yeah.
those fatty sauces, they slow digestion, right? So sometimes I'll still be feeling like I ate my salad 2 hours ago. But the lower fat content you do, especially if you're eating starches or vegetables, fruits, all that kind of stuff, legumes, these foods digest very, very quickly in the absence of a ton of oil and all that. So sure, and they're going to fill up your muscle glycogen. A person like you is very active. You need the carbs. It's not just about protein and fat. Protein and fat will make you feel sluggish and heavy. And maybe if you're very keto adapted, but most people, they just don't thrive, even in terms of their exercise and their gains, unless they incorporate a good amount of carbohydrate. You need to fill up that liver glycogen. You need, especially after fasting, to replenish the muscle glycogen. That will give you that long-term speed you were talking about, that ability to just run and thrive. And I think that's wonderful. I definitely think plant-based diets for everybody, bodybuilders, for anybody that wants to gain weight, lose weight, build muscle, you lose fat, whatever it is, it's helpful in all those circumstances. And it's just about tweaking the way the diet works for you to really get the desired results.
Well, that's all very profound information. I agree with you 100% on all that. And I think it always comes down to awareness in the end, and doing what works best for your body and what's going to make you excel physically and mentally and emotionally, all rolled into one. So that can be a long process. I mean, we're always evolving. And as I get older, I feel like I keep getting in better shape, and I keep learning new things, and I keep making my diet more healthy, and I keep getting more in tune with what works for me and what doesn't. And I think all of us out there need to do the exact same thing. You just got to figure out what's going to work best for you and get to the point where you're going to excel, where you're not going too crazy. Like both of us have gone excessive in the past, obviously with our eating disorders, but we've both been able to overcome them as well by creating awareness in our diet and in our body and in our whole lifestyles. And that's really what it's all about. And it always starts with one step at a time. And if all you can do this week is eat a cucumber before your meals 5 nights a week, that could be your first step right there. And that could launch you into the next level.
Yeah. And it's very powerful. People don't understand that the very best diet for you is not going to be the diet that someone tells you to eat that makes you miserable. There's a lot of studies where if a person's eating, let's say you and I went out for dinner, okay, and you're eating a pizza and you're all happy having a pizza, and I'm eating a sprout salad, but I'm really wanting pizza and I'm very jealous of your pizza. The entire time that I'm hating on you and your pizza, I'm creating a stress response in my body so that this beautiful, vibrant raw salad isn't benefiting me. Because when we are stressed, our stomach acid gets suppressed. So I'm sitting there poisoning my body by forcing myself to eat a sprout salad, while you, who's super happy and deliriously enjoying guilt-free your pizza, are actually getting less of a health harm than I would be. And they've actually done tests that our emotions gauge a lot our diet. So this is not my way of saying go out and eat pizza. It's my way of saying that you should find there are so many delicious, healthy foods and meal options that you can make. They don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be flavorless, saltless, dressingless lettuce. It can be something that you really enjoy and still be whole food and still be healthy. And so I think people should just stop looking at food as the enemy. Stop looking at, can I eat sweet potatoes? Can I eat broccoli? Should I eat fat? Should I eat this? And start looking at the fact that each food has a special, unique, beautiful chemistry that can transmit to your body, and it can help keep you alive and nourish you and feed your cells. And start seeing food as the most beautiful way to keep your car and your engine running and to keep your body functioning at its best. And it makes it a lot easier for you to add broccoli to your dinner, to choose things that we all know are healthy, like vegetables. When you hate your body and you're exercising like compulsively because your body is just not what you want it to be, you've created stress. That cortisol will make you store more fat and burn your adrenal glands out. But at the same time, that's another person could go and do that same workout for that same length of time, listening to music they love and saying how good it feels to feel the endorphin rush. And sorry, I'm doing the like elliptical movement there, but I'm remembering how much I find elliptical relaxing. But yeah, and you're doing it and you're saying, oh, I love my body and it's beautiful, even if it's not exactly where you want it to be. And it feels so good to move and to breathe and to sweat. And I love this song. all of a sudden you're getting so much benefit from that workout. The same is true for food. So definitely finding an emotional balance where you can have a social life, where you can love what you're eating and help incorporate healthy, diet options into your family's lives and all these things, and adding the cucumbers if you like that. If you hate cucumbers, eat something else, bell peppers, carrots,
Sprouts,
there's sprouts, whatever it
celery.
is. And not doing it because you hate yourself. Do it because you love yourself, because you deserve the very best that there is. And shifting that, having that paradigm shift will make a really big difference in you both seeing results and just being happier in the moment now while you wait for those results to come.
Well, that was very profound information right there. Not that the rest of this show wasn't, but that right there is also going to be the end. And that was a perfect way to end this show. What closing words do you have for everyone? Where can they find you? And what do you have that you can offer people more? Give it up.
Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I'm very excited to be able to share my thoughts and everything with you. I'm sorry again for the phone ringing in the background. It's busy these days. You can definitely find me on my website, montrealhealthygirl.com. There's a contact page there. You can reach out to me. I spend many hours a day doing emails, so it's usually not more than a couple of days before I get back to you. You can also check out my YouTube channel, like you mentioned earlier. I have close to 300 free and detailed health videos on there. And I also do offer personalized written healing programs. So if you are interested in that, I have ebooks and things, recipe books and all that you guys can check out on my website if you're interested. But I really advise you to take a look at my YouTube channel, because I'm not one of those people that tells you, oh, you should eat a little broccoli and then contact me for more information. I really do give every single bit of information that I possibly can that's safe and generic enough for everybody to be able to effectively do at home and in a safe way and all that. But I give everything in my videos. And I really believe that we all deserve to be healthy, and we all deserve to know the truth about how our bodies work. And so if you're looking for health information and you really want to exactly know what to eat and exactly how to get rid of parasites and exactly how to do all kinds of different things and boost your body and lose weight naturally and heal eating disorders and whatever else, I have complete videos detailing exact protocols to follow and exactly what I would do in that circumstance, and the equivalent of what I would give someone in a one-on-one session. So I definitely want to advise people to do that. And I'm so happy to be able to do what I do and to share with you and be a part of this. So thank you so much for having me. And to all of you who are listening, thank you so much for showing an interest in healthy living, natural healing, in helping create a more sustainable earth. And so I'm just very excited to be sharing the planet with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule today for joining me today on this podcast. It has been amazing. So much good information today. I'm super stoked about it. So this has been Train for Longevity podcast number 3. And we talked about eating disorders. We talked about microbiomes. We talked about cooking food versus raw. We talked about veganism. We talked about it all. In case you're just watching the end of this for some stupid reason, get back to the top and watch the whole entire thing. This show has been brought to you by RestoreYourFitness.com, Pine Pollen Superfoods, and Precision Fitcations. Until next time, this is K-Rail signing off. Okay, we're in furlough. That was awesome.